So when we speak about the mind, we're speaking about software. And when I speak in Penuelism about owning your mind, I am talking, number one, of acknowledging what I'm talking about, of saying I have this computer system inside me that is like a cell phone that had preloaded apps and that the world has constantly been programming.
Yeah.
That there are preloaded applications, apps in that software that you're not aware of that are operating in the background. But from birth, the world you are born into shoves a lot of apps, force downloads a lot of apps onto your software. And your parents gave you an operating system. And it is preloaded with things that come from the past. Now, those ones come later on in life with consciousness. The way your mind processes all of this programming from birth has a lot to do with the preloaded apps from your ancestors. Moving, and then at school, they put in a lot of work in forcing you to download. What are your dreams for life? I want to have a big house. I want to have a nice car. You didn't choose that.
Yeah.
You didn't, at the age of 2 years old, magically be like, I want to. That is stuff that is conditioned through programming. That is now a pollution of your system. And viruses are meant to be removed, by the way. Then there are conflicting apps where the one app says do this, the other app says do that. And you're like, okay, I'm a woman, I'm empowered and I'm free, I'm a feminist. But there's another app of Christianity that was loaded in me where I must submit to a man and my husband is the head. Yeah. And it's like, but I'm free. Hi to all the viewers. My name is Penuel the Black Pen. I am guest number 6 and I've been forced to make this statement against my will. I'm not kidding. I don't know why they're laughing. By participating in this engagement today with Elvis, Molefi, Molf, I hereby give consent to the platform to publish this conversation via relevant audio and video streaming platforms and to utilize all the existing social media pages to share this conversation for the purposes of educating the greater society about the topics discussed between myself and Elvis, the host today. Furthermore, to all viewers and listeners, it is very important for you to listen to, very important, or watch this conversation till the end in order to avoid missing information, pieces, and puzzles that connect to form the central objective of this conversation today. Stop listening to sound bites on social media and then, come on. Through all the channels, this content will be distributed via May this conversation reach both the ears of the expert and the non-expert in the subjects and topics discussed today. Thank you very much, and I hope you'll enjoy the show. Break it down with Elvis, Molefi, Molf.
Wow, that's nice, Pen. Because with the last episode, I tried to get my guests to actually read the statement, and what I realized is that I didn't actually prepare them. So as they were busy reading, I'm realizing the mistakes within the text, and I'm like, okay, the grammar is not okay there.
Sure.
I need to fix this and that. And that's a statement that I think I want to make it form part of, the identity of this podcast, just to set it apart from others. And I'm hoping that people like you will read and realize, okay, maybe this is how we can modify the statement in a very nice way.
Sure.
But thank you so much for coming here. Break it down. I hope you're going to break down a lot of things. We've got top 6 Penuelism principles that I've chosen.
Oh, snap.
And we're going to go through each and every one of them.
Sure.
I don't think 90 minutes is going to be enough, but I'm hoping that we're going to give context to whatever we can. Not going to introduce you. I think everybody knows who's Penuel, so we're not going to do that.
If not, Google me. I'm a fucking big deal. Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, well, you can.
I'm a boop. Big deal.
You can go on Google and say God Penuel or Penuel the Black Pen.
That's what's up.
Yeah, or Penuel Mlojwa.
Come on.
You can try and see who's this person that is here today. How are you doing?
No, Elvis, I'm really good, man. I just want to say thank you for inviting me. And more than anything, I want to big up the work that you've been doing. From the first time we met, you're one of the few, maybe there's like 3 people I've met in the last 3 years where the conversations we've held have actually graduated to work. And you're working and you're using the platforms available and you're meeting people and you're pushing.
Yeah.
Because I tell people, you want us to sit down, put in the work and let's see. Don't just say, Pen, I want you to come on my podcast. and you've been putting in work. You show up, you interrogate, you ask people, you meet people. So shout out to you. Shout out to Break It Down.
Yeah.
I hope this platform will grow from strength to strength. And I appreciate the fact that you've said you want to create a culture of constantly learning and refining.
Yeah.
And that's how you remain relevant over time. So thank you for the invite, and good luck to the platform.
Yeah.
And I hope the viewers will appreciate what it is that you're trying to do here, which is to educate people about many, many topics and concepts.
Thank you so much, man. And I remember I've been at a couple of events where you were either speaking or attending, even here at AMPT, the masterclass that you were giving last time, and I think if you remember well, in most events, I always ask you if I can have like a very small, chat with you after the event. And seeing that, okay, people are well receiving this, small Nyana clips that we do. A lot of people have asked me to say, when are you going to have a sit down with this guy? But as you said off camera that, sometimes I think you have to put in the work so that, when the guest comes in here, at least, you can see that, okay, this person, even though they're not really like that of a big deal, but, maybe they are on the path to do something. I was looking at the meaning of your name, Penuel, and it says something like the one who wrestles with God, if I'm not mistaken. But can you explain to me what the name means to you as well?
I've been spending a lot of time with people that are well versed in African spirituality.
Okay.
I've appreciated it very much. Abba Ayalio Amlak.
Yes.
Sat with the Umkhulu Ntsingeza of the great empire of Kemet.
Yes.
I've sat with Unsigi Mazwai, who's also a student of African spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to still sit with Dr. Litchfield, Umama. I think she's part of the UTM, if I'm not mistaken. Can you see the Litchfield? I've sat with Dr. Uma Ifatunde, even though he's not South African.
100%.
Sat with Joshua Maponga. They speak about the importance of names, and it's one of the things I think we now sleep on as people. And I think for future parents, or if you're going to be a parent, I think take time to meditate on your child's name, and make sure that when you give your child a name, it captures the time that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
It captures the feeling, and hope. More than anything, it gives a projection of what you hope for your child.
Okay.
I think what that does to you as a parent, even when you call the child, you'll remember that I gave this child this name, Tupac, because it was in 1995. Tupac was hot. Tupac was a revolutionary. He was a rebel. West Side, thug life.
Yeah.
But he also represented consciousness, black consciousness, leadership, etc. So I named you Tupac, so that when the child hears their name, they fully understand what it means. And even when you call them, you're like, your name is almost a reference in history to something. And it's also a premonition of, I would like for you to be a leader, a speaker, whatever the case may be. I do not know what inspired my mother to stumble upon the name Penuel.
So it came from your mother.
It's my mother's name. I didn't create this. It's not a rap name.
Yeah.
It's not
No,
50
I thought maybe
cents.
it was your dad.
No, it's from my mother. My mother gave me both my names, Penuel and Ulungelo.
Yeah.
Ulungelo meaning a right, of which when I was born in 1986, black people still didn't have rights, which we have today. Nakona, they're still limited. So she tells me that she found the name in the Bible encyclopedia. My mom is not even very religious. Sorry, she's not a staunch Christian.
Yeah.
I can only assume that this name is something that she stumbled upon in the universe. Some names, maybe when you come across them, you don't know why.
Yeah.
And they just work.
Yeah.
So Penuel is from Genesis. It's a place where Jacob wrestled an angel. For people that are theologians or who are biblical scholars.
Yeah.
Jacob wrestled with an angel, and after wrestling with the angel, said, I have seen the face of God. And that became Penuel, Penuel. Sometimes it's spelled with an I instead of a U, Peniel.
Mm-hmm.
And it became that area, the name of that area, which is near a river in that space. up north. So Penuel means essentially the face of God, where Jacob had wrestled an angel. It is from Hebrew, which is more Jewish. Jewish people learn Hebrew.
Yeah.
And that became my name. Very weird name. People ask me, how do you pronounce your name? Penuel. I'm like, hey, I also don't know. But what I prefer is Penuwill. Penuel.
Okay.
I prefer that pronunciation. It's just a preference. But you
Yeah.
can call me Penuel,
Yeah.
Penuel. It's fine. But that's where my name comes from. And I guess in the future, that would become the basis now for what would become my belief system, which is Penuelism. And for Christians, Jewish people, they would be like, but this is from Hebrew,
Yeah.
Penuel, and this is from the Bible. So there's almost some flow of a graduation from Judaism, Christianity, and now we've got Penuelism, named after this black boy from South Africa, which was colonized by the British.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man, this is really. I appreciate you like giving really like a deep context into
Yeah.
the name, because I watched also your episode with Amlak.
Yeah. Abba.
Yeah, well, his idea of not having a name for like the first 10 days of his life.
Yeah.
I think it's a very weird kind of thing when you hear it for the very first time. But when you think about it, actually, maybe that's how it should be, so that you can give parents enough time to decide who are we going to name this person, and also why, you know, because you look at, you know, a lot of names really don't resonate with how people like how individuals are living their lives.
Correct.
You know. But yeah, I think we can begin. So we're gonna touch on chapter 1 of the Penuelism principles.
The most important chapter.
Yeah, and chapter 12.
Yeah.
So chapter 1 is Own Your Mind, and then chapter 12 is talking about sex.
Hey, talk about what?
Sex, relationships, and dating. Chapter 8, we're gonna talk about education. Chapter 24, we're gonna talk about trauma. And chapter 16, you say money is not real. You have to really explain that to me. Nkululeko yesterday, Nkululeko from Lifestyle Cafe next door from Protea Glen was like, can you ask this guy what is his idea of money? So we're going to talk about that. And then lastly, chapter 21, if we still have time, we have to talk about owning recycled goods, second-hand purchasing. Yeah. So let's start with owning your mind. What do you mean when you say owning your mind, and what is a mind?
Can I go back to the names first?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I spoke about meditating, and that's meant to happen during pregnancy. The mom and the dad, by the way.
They need to meditate.
It's my suggestion.
Okay.
On the name of the child.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. In a situation where for whatever reason you don't, and then the child is born, maybe you first want to see the child.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't know what the gender was going to be until the child was born.
Yes.
You want to see if this child is light-skinned, dark-skinned, because some people are named after their texture. You want to see if this child has a lot of hair. You want to see if they look like their father, like their mom. And you want to give them maybe that time to give you some type of clue on this is who I am. Maybe the child cries a lot. Maybe the child is quiet. You know, Tulani, Utule, do, whatever the name is, Utulile. You know, so that really works. One of the other things that I think is really dope and we've lost, or that we should introduce or reintroduce, is the idea of names that morph over time. It should not be that you become imprisoned by a name at birth. My dad named me Mandla, and now everywhere I go, mina ngumandla. I'd like to think the name that your parent gave you is an expression of themselves and the environment at the time.
Yeah.
As you grow up without becoming like a hip-hop star, you can give your name a nickname, DJ Smooth,
Okay.
Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne. You can give yourself like a rap name, but you almost want to encourage children to be like, as you're traveling through life, be self-aware. See who and what you are so that you can also name yourself. My father calls me this, but my friends at school call me this. But when I introduce myself to people, because I want to create a perception of something, I tell them, hi, I'm Rockefeller. You are who? I'm Rockefeller. The wealthy, that's me. Why? because my aim is to become wealthy as well in whatever. But my dad named me Mandla. My friends call me Uspigiri because I once got stabbed by a nail or whatever. And you should be allowed throughout life because that's where nicknames come from. And people have nicknames that are given by people.
Yeah.
But you should also, even at the age of 18, I know in America, some black Americans, when they go through Africanization, they go through this process of removing their old name, like Dr. Umar Johnson becomes Dr. Umar Ifatunde. Cassius Clay becomes Muhammad Ali when he converts to Islam, as an example. So you should also say, I'm at a point now where I know what my mother and father named me. I am now naming myself. And you go through a process of, even if it's changing your birth certificate or your ID, this is now the name I'm naming myself. I'm either removing my parents' names or I'm adding this one, where I want to now be known as this moving forward.
Wow.
And in that way, your name means something to your parents, your friends, your family, and to yourself. And you introduce yourself as Penuel the Black Pen, which is not what my parents named me, but it means something to me.
Okay.
And someone else can call themselves whatever. I don't know if Molf is on your ID.
No, Molf is actually an abbreviation for my second name, which is Molefi.
Molefi. Yeah. So that's you. You're like, I want to be Molf.
Yeah.
Call me Molf. That's the name. Don't call me Kaffir. Don't call me nigger. Call me Molf. That's what I want to be called. If you call me, hey, you black guy, hey, Elvis, don't call me Elvis. Call me Molf.
Yeah.
That becomes something that you picked yourself and it carries so much more weight.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's on names.
No, that's deep, man. Because when you speak about names and nicknames, you think about it in different spaces. People will call you differently.
Correct.
You know, and Elvis Molefi Molf. Elvis is my first name.
Yeah.
According to my ID, Molefi is my second name, and as I was growing up, I didn't use Elvis.
Okay.
I was using Molefi. But also, my peers were calling me Molf. You know, because all the Molefi guys, it's Molf, you know,
Sure.
where I come from. So now, when I got to university, then when I was writing my matric, then they started saying this whole thing of you using your second name, because I was always writing my second name.
Sure.
And I was using it, and it was okay up until I reached matric, and they were
Sure.
like, no, you have to use your first name.
Who said that?
I think
Teachers?
yeah, obviously school,
Okay.
management.
Okay.
I think for the exam number, whatever,
Sure.
it has to be like according to the birth certificate or the ID. So then, okay, I adapted that year. I adapted my first name, but I've never really adapted it like that. Then when I got to varsity, now I've adapted Elvis. Now I'm Elvis, But now I go back home and I visit with a friend, and he's right next to me. He's like, Elvis. The other guy's like, who's Elvis? So then Elvis Molefi Molf is like, okay, cool. Whatever name you want to call me between
I'm
those
acknowledging
three.
all of them.
Yeah, between those three. But again, I think names for me are like, they're like branding.
Correct.
It's not your identity, but it's part of your identity. So I don't really limit myself with that, but I understand, that it's part of that. So I acknowledge what you are saying.
Do you know if you were named after Elvis Presley? You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know Elvis Presley?
Yes.
Arguably the greatest pop star of all time.
Yeah, I've watched his movie, his documentary.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at him and I was like, okay, did these people name me after this person? Like, if they knew how this... Elvis was reckless, man. Very reckless.
But the music was good.
Music 100%.
Yeah.
Even though other people can argue that he was stealing music from black people,
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I love it. I think it's okay. It's an okay name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all my names.
All right.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Elvis.
Yeah.
Molf.
What is a mind?
Arguably the greatest movie ever made is The Matrix by the Wachowskis.
You think so?
I believe so.
Okay.
The Matrix has got a lot of metaphoric meanings for how the world was and how it is today. Speaking about human beings and the machines and living in a matrix. And it's not the only one. There have been other movies and documentaries and discussions around. Now, if you look at the Matrix just as a concept, because I'm using the Matrix and I want to go back to your question about the mind. And you look at where the world is today with technology and the computer era and the cell phone and the internet and Wi-Fi. The mind to me is software. Your body is hardware.
Okay.
Yeah. So arguably both our bodies and our minds are not chosen. Your body is a collaboration of your parents and your grandparents and those that came before. You didn't choose to look the way you look.
100%.
Yeah. So your parents came together. They decided to collaborate on a project. That project was you. And then you were born and you took on a template that you didn't choose. You can modify it in various ways. You can gym, you can exercise. If you're fat, you can lose weight. If you're naturally fat, maybe your family is naturally big. You can lose weight, or you can gain weight if you're naturally thin. And then the day you decide to collaborate on a project with a woman, you can choose someone that maybe has the type of hardware, physical, that you maybe hope your children will have. Maybe you'd like a taller woman. Maybe you'd like a lighter skinned woman. Maybe you'd like a woman who's bigger. You're like, I want my kids to have a different template. So the software is something similar, where your parents gave you a mind that is not your own. So imagine your body being a cell phone, and your parents gave you an operating system, and it is preloaded with things that come from the past. Now, those ones come later on in life with consciousness, and I'll speak about them later, that they are preloaded applications, apps, in that software that you're not aware of that are operating in the background. But from birth, the world you are born into shoves a lot of apps, downloads a lot of apps onto your software. That's what we call the name. So now you're going to be called Elvis. Your software is going to be called Elvis, and your hardware as well. And then you're going to learn a language.
Okay.
Xitsonga, isiZulu, whatever. You didn't choose that. It's when you go on a cell phone, they're like, choose language. You didn't choose that. It was chosen for you by your parents.
Yeah.
And then from there, you choose belief system. Again, based on your environment. So your forced download, no, Tina, we pasha here. No, we go to church. No, we go to the mosque. Again, not chosen. And then you keep moving. And then at school, they put in a lot of work in forcing you to download. What are your dreams for life? I want to have a big house. I want to have a nice car. You didn't choose that.
Yeah.
You didn't, at the age of 2 years old, magically be like, I want to. That is stuff that is conditioned through programming.
Yeah.
And then you encounter the world, and every now and then you obviously meet people who challenge that. Why don't you have a house? Everyone wants a house. You're like, oh no, I got the same app as you, but I deleted it. I don't want a house anymore. Why aren't you married? Everyone wants to get married. You're like, yeah, look, I also got the same app. Or where I come from, we've got a different app. We've got a polygamy app. So where I come from, and therefore marriage for me is something different than you. Virginity, sex, etc. So the mind is this software. And I want to go back to that point that I left at the beginning. The way your mind processes all of this programming from birth has a lot to do with the preloaded apps from your ancestors.
Okay.
What does this mean? This means I get 90% at school. The other kids are getting 60%. Why? What do you do? Like, nothing. I don't know.
Effortless.
Why do you just remember stuff? I don't know. Why do you just like reading? Why do you want to create a podcast that is educational? Everyone's doing gossip. What is it about? Because we all come from the same place, same kasi, same. Why are you different? That's where you realize there are preloaded apps from your ancestors. They manifest through dreams. So you'll have dreams and you're like, hey, don't I have these weird. It's like, oh, it's because your parents, grandparents had these experiences and now they are playing in your mind.
Okay.
It happens through deja vu, where you're like, I think I've been here before. And it happens through decision making. You get to a space, everyone is seeing Hans and Habli and drinks, and you're like, I know, I'm Nikrand. Why not? You're like, I don't know. I don't think this is for me.
Oh.
You're like, everyone's doing it. It's cool. All the hot chicks are like, do this thing. And your software is, for whatever weird reason, rejecting that thing. That is preloaded because you didn't learn that at school. You didn't learn that in the streets. That is unique to you.
Yeah.
And again, you can work on these things. So when we speak about the mind, we're speaking about software. And when I speak in Penuelism about owning your mind, I am talking, number one, of acknowledging what I'm talking about, of saying I have this computer system inside me that is like a cell phone that had preloaded apps and that the world has constantly been programming.
Yeah.
And now that I acknowledge it, Penuel is saying, go through the apps, delete the apps that don't make sense, that don't serve you, and load apps that make sense. You grew up in a Christian household. You are happy. You guys go to church. Your mom tithes. And now that you acknowledge this own your mind thing, you're like, I've been studying Muslims. I've been studying Buddhists. And I'd like to delete the Christianity app. I know I grew up with it and my mom loves it and sonke khaya siyatandaza, but I actually want to follow Prophet Muhammad's teachings or Buddha's teachings.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can't do that. That's wrong. That's your... And you're like, no, it's not. It is just an app. Because my great-grandparents did not have the Christianity app. They had a different app that worked for them. And this Christianity app, for me, doesn't work because I don't want to tithe, or because the Christians I'm around talk about no sex before marriage, but they're having sex. Whereas my Muslim friends, they are not having sex before marriage. And I think this makes more sense to me. The women are covered. The people don't drink alcohol. So I think when I look at the apps that are out there, this is the one that I prefer. And you do the same with diet. I know everyone is eating junk and what. I want to delete this app of fast food and whatever, and I want to go to healthier foods. I want to... Or look the other way around. You can be like, I was raised in this home. No sex before marriage. Don't drink and smoke. And I'm like, nah, fuck that, dog. I'm free. Everyone's living a good time. And when I puff on a cigarette or weed, you know, I feel dope.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm drinking, I have a good time, I party. And sex, bro, like it helps me connect with my partner so much. So it gets to a point where you're like, where you're supposed to review how your brain functions and then decide to start taking ownership of it and deciding what I will and will not do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're speaking about ancestral memory, right? In a form of that analogy that you're giving of apps, you know? And I like it. I think it's practical. But I'm just thinking, for some of those that we have inherited from those who came before us, biologically speaking, does that mean that a portion of it was also adapted through their environment? So, for instance, right now, I'm Elvis. I live in Johannesburg, and I grew up, you know, in Pretoria. And there was a lot of things that influenced me, beside, you know, everything that came from my ancestors. And that then becomes part of my software, you know, becomes part of a group of apps that, you know, are part of me. And then now, when biologically I procreate, does that mean that I transfer also what I have acquired or what has affected me, you know, as I go through life? Don't know if that question makes sense.
No, it has to influence, hence the programming. So the programming is either external or internal through ancestral memory, or through your choice, whatever that means. So I spoke about apps. The one thing I didn't speak about was viruses.
Viruses.
A virus. So there's apps, viruses, and conflicting apps. So I spoke about apps being forced down your throat. You will learn English. You will call yourself Elvis. You will go get a job. You will get married. Most of these are meant to be for your benefit. All right?
Yeah.
We assume. Some of them are a virus. Viruses come in unwelcome. Colonizers. Where you're forced to get a white name, English name, because of white schools.
Yeah.
Molefi, what's this? Do you have another name, boy? Elvis. Okay, we'll call you Elvis.
Yeah.
That is now a pollution of your system. And viruses are meant to be removed, by the way. Then there are conflicting apps where the one app says do this, the other app says do that. And you're like, okay, I'm a woman, I'm empowered and I'm free, I'm a feminist. But there's another app of Christianity that was loaded in me where I must submit to a man and my husband is the head.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I'm free. I have agency over my body. I can do what I want with it. But here it's like, no, my body's a temple. I must like, they're conflicting and you need to resolve. Taking the virus out is meant to be easy, but it's difficult because the people that planted the virus put in a lot of work to nurture that virus. What that means is you are born in Africa, you live in South Africa, and the people that forced English down our throats have created economic systems where you almost cannot eat without English. You can't get a job, you can't get an income, you can't go to a shop and buy food to eat. The only way to access that meal, if it's not crime, is through learning English, getting a job, making money, going to the shop. So you end up being like, hey, you know what, let me keep this virus. The only food available is unhealthy food because healthy food requires you to find a piece of land, to fertilize, to plant. Meanwhile, there's a burger here or konikota, like namarashen, and you're like, I know I shouldn't be eating this, but it's the only thing easily available. So you're meant to fight against viruses, and it's hard. The conflicting apps, Christianity versus feminism as an example, go to the depth of the operating system you inherited. You spoke about your kids in future. Your kids inherit however you used to live, influenced by Pretoria, whatever the case may be. And they're now living in New York.
Yeah.
What we have in the world, I'm going to speak about black people, but in the world as a whole, we have children that are suffering from depression. There are people struggling with mental illnesses. There are people that are miserable. There are people that have allergies because of these conflicting things I'm speaking about. So I spoke about hardware. You grew up in an area where, or you're born in an area where your ancestors ate organic, spinach, cabbage, etc. You are moved to a place where you are eating pizza, lasagna, cheese, and you don't understand why you always have a rash and why you're always vomiting. It is because your physical ancestral memory is not used to this foreign thing you're putting inside. So you're getting physically sick. Now, psychologically, the same thing happens, where you are being brought into a space where you are being taught a way of living that is foreign to your natural mind. A lot of black Africans understand the concept of waking up when the sun rises. It's like nature has said it is now time to rise.
Yeah.
But we are being made to wake up in the dark at 5 so we can catch taxis and trains to a job. That is not natural. It's foreign. That's why you hate waking up. In winter, you're meant to wake up even later and hibernate and sleep and rest. But you're forced to wake up and be cold. You're literally forcing your body to be traumatized through something that's not natural to it. You go to a workspace that is a 9 to 5, of which productivity is meant to be based on your inspiration. I am inspired to work.
Yeah.
But here it's not inspiration. Here it's you will work no matter what, whether you're inspired or not. And you're constantly fighting your mind. And for many people, when we speak social anxiety, when we speak panic attacks, when we speak emotional breakdown, when we speak depression, it is fundamentally because of this. Because the mind that you have is being forcefully programmed against its natural state that was inherited. And people break down. Some of them break down and go into substances to numb the pain, including alcohol. Some of them start things like meditation, or they go to a different religious practice, or they go on a holiday to escaping the rat race. It's because you're trying to move away from an environment you're aware is toxic.
Yeah.
Why do you look forward to the holidays? Because you know that this space I'm in is unhealthy for me and I want to get away. Detoxing, fasting. I know I'm eating rubbish. If I was eating something healthier, why would I ever need to fast? I'm fasting because I need to cleanse my body of filth. Some people end up betwasa,
Okay.
bungoma,
Yeah.
because in that ancestral memory, they get dreams and visions of inherited thoughts to say, this is not it. And they break. And when they break, they get taken to a doctor. The doctor says, you're in full health. Maybe go see a psychologist. The psychologist says, you're suffering from social anxiety. Let's give you antidepressants.
Yeah.
Or you go to Isangoma, and Isangoma says, tell me what you've been dreaming about. Tell me about your family. Tell me where you're from. And Isangoma says, I'd like you to go on a journey. I'd like you to go back home to where your people come from. Take off your shoes, take off your socks, walk. Just walk there where your ancestors walked. And I want you to stay away from processed foods and eat the food of the land that is naturally growing there. And I want you to get in front of the sun and be as naked as you can be and let the sun's energy hit you. And then after that process, tell me how you feel. I said I'm going to speak about black people, but this applies to white people. White people go on retreats where they walk barefoot, where they eat organic food, where they spend time in the sun. Exact same thing that Africans used to do. And then in that, when you come back and you speak to the spiritual guide, they then ask you every day, what have you been dreaming about? No, I've been seeing. And they're like, I think you have a gift of seeing, of connecting with nature. And I think where you are right now is toxic for you. And I'm going to need you to get out and to start on this journey. There are people that have hijacked Ubungoma to make money and to lie because when you're depressed, some kids are depressed just because they miss their family. Just because you grew up without your father. And you actually just need to go and find your father's family, connect with them, let them tell you about your father because it's in your mind. Your father's there trying to tell you whatever life you're living is bullshit. This thing of Elvis, say, fuck Elvis. We're Molf. That's who you are. And when you meet your father's family, they say Elvis, they're like, hey, that's rubbish. And you're like, hey, these people are making me smile. I don't know why. Come eat this. And you eat it. You're like, this is the best meal I've ever had. But then someone will tell you, no, ubungoma. And you're like, no, it's not ubungoma. I don't have some gift. What I have is my mind at a crossroads of continuing with this programming or plugging into ancestral memory to actually consult my brain before it was polluted on where should I be going? What feels natural? And what feels natural must be what's healthy for you. Is learning Afrikaans and going to work for Van der Merwe what's natural and what's best? The answer may be no. The answer may be no. Go work in the farms. No, go be a creative. Create art. Your family was a family of singers. That's why they named you Elvis. They wanted you to make music. But the music may not be singing. It may be producing. It may be working with musicians. It may be that we named you Elvis because we want you to go and find the Elvis Presley story and expose it to the world that Elvis was a project of stealing from black creativity. I was named Elvis, and I think my ancestors were giving me a task to be like, I will go and find all the stories of theft of black art, not just music, of all. And I want to take this Elvis name and make you guys see that it is not what you guys think it is. And in future, don't treat black people or indigenous people like this. But I was named Elvis. I didn't know at the time why. Now I know. It was for this project. And now I understand. And not only do I embrace that name, I love it. Because yes, it uncovers rubbish, but it's my purpose kind of situation. So we've got those conflicting things in the mind to what you're asking about your child inheriting. When your child inherits that, it's not just you, it's their mom. And this is why one of the greatest crimes committed on indigenous people by capitalist systems is removing you as far away from your people and your history as possible. Where you will learn about Mussolini, Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong. You'll learn about Martin Luther King Jr. You'll learn about Roosevelt. You'll learn about whoever. But can you tell me about your grandparents? Who they were, what they were, where they were from, what they ate, what their dreams were. We celebrate 67 minutes of Nelson Mandela in prison. But do you know your grandfather's birthday? Do you know what he was fighting for in his life? Whatever his little fight was, his fight could have been, we just want electricity in this village. Then you're like, I will carry on my grandfather's legacy and make sure there's electricity here. Or my grandmother used to do beadwork. I will make sure that I'm not going to do beadwork. I don't care about that. But I will find women that do beadwork. And even if it's just 100 Rand a month, why do you donate? Because my grandmother did beadwork. And this is part of her legacy. Meanwhile, I'm celebrating people I don't know. I'm wearing a brand, to what you're saying about names and labels. I'm wearing a brand and I'm like, Nike boy, just do it. I'm like, what is my family brand? What are our clan names? What is my totem? So that when people ask me, who are you? Ungubani. You are fully well-versed in yourself. Where does Penuel come from? Where does Lungelo come from? Ubani umlojo. And you fully have that foundation and it's secure. So that if I wear Adidas, if I wear Gucci, and someone's like, you don't even know you. I'm like, Don, I'm so self-aware. Trust. The reason I wear Gucci is for this reason. The reason I wear Nike is because I like the mantra, and it's actually tied to my family's mantra of, so I see an alignment kind of situation. I'm rooted in who I am. You spoke about a prof that taught you at UJ off camera.
Prof Mboti.
Prof Mboti. It is meant to be a no-brainer that for the first 7-10 years of a child's life, outside of learning how to read and write and paint and those things, they should be spending all of that time learning who they are. So that moving forward from there, anything they do, my father was an athlete, my mother was a singer. After age 10, they can choose, I will carry on with my family legacy. So at school, I will join the choir. At school, I will play disc. I will go and lead because I come from a family of leaders. Why do you like leading? I actually come from, for the first 10 years of my life, all I went to do was study my family history. And even my diet after age 10, when people say, would you like to eat this? No, this is not in line with my family diet. No, this is not in line. The Jews, the Muslims have plugged this in so well, which is why they have halal and kosher, why the Muslims pray 5 times a day, why they go to mosque and madrasa. It's because they've said, this is who we are. If you guys want to do this, oh, sorry, this is haram. We don't do that. What do you mean? No, everyone's doing. No, we don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a school dance. Can your daughter? My daughter's not going there. No, but our school, we appreciate our daughter's there for education and maybe for debating.
Yeah.
But she's not there for that. We don't do that because we know who we are.
Yeah.
You will not download apps in my daughter's mind of feminism and women empowerment, which are not going to serve our family. So we are all meant to go on that journey. And with Penuelism principles, I mean, even when I start my belief system, it is fundamentally because I started on that, on let me own my mind. And then from there, all the other principles come. Everything else in my belief system comes. Yeah. Anytime someone talks to me, Penuelism, why must we call it after you? I'm like, as long as you are in control of what you're saying, and you're not telling me, no, you must accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I'm like, that's not you. That is what you were programmed to say. And I'm telling you, criticize me, but tell me, Pen, I love your belief system. I choose Jesus Christ because I prefer him as my role model versus you. And I'm like, as long as you are in control, I can fully support what you're saying. Yeah.
I want to move to the next subject, but I feel that I won't be doing justice if I don't ask you this question. Ancestors were not perfect.
Zero.
Yeah, they were human beings. If there was a podcast during that time, they probably sat like this and they spoke, and maybe one of them came late or whatever.
Sure.
You know? But like...
They were sitting around fires podcasting.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. And I'm just thinking, if they were not perfect, then it's pretty much possible that we are able to inherit imperfect apps in our softwares.
Correct.
Bad habits. Can you edit your software? Can you edit your mind?
So I spoke about the conflicts in the mind with the software. Part of that conflict is for good reasons. So your ancestors spoke Ndebele. And your ancestors were farmers. And now you want to go and work in the finance world as a stockbroker, as a trader, as a hedge fund manager, speaking Mandarin in a foreign country of Shanghai, the city of Shanghai in China. Now, you may constantly feel miserable, depressed, and it's like you're in a foreign space.
Yeah.
And you may end up depressed. You may end up sick. You may come home and someone says, leave China. Stop speaking Mandarin, speak Ndebele, go farm. You'll feel healthier. And you'll be like, I see and I hear all of that. I don't want it. I want a different path. That's when you have to fight. And fighting sometimes has bad consequences. I can tell you now that one of my theories, this is just a theory, one of my theories is that the reason people take their lives is because the fight within the mind gets to a point where it becomes unfathomable. It's so loud in your head. It is screaming that you want it to stop. Your grandfather's fighting your great-grandmother, who is fighting your uncle, who is fighting you now in your head. And your grandmother is saying, you're talking shit, and your grandfather is saying, this boy is a man, and your real environment is saying, no, but white people are right. And your mind, it gets so loud that you're like, I just want it to stop. And even when I sleep, it's not enough because the dreams haunt me. So you end up wanting to switch it off and you take your life. Fighting your ancestors must be a journey that you are fully awake in. My forefathers lost dominion over the land. They lost because they had inferior weapons, inferior strategy, and they were dominated by a small group of white colonialists.
With a better strategy.
Who had better strategy, better weapons, and then most importantly, they were more ruthless. My forefathers were human.
Yeah.
They had humanity, Ubuntu. I'm going to have to fight my ancestors' humanity to be able to retain dominion and to dominate. Which means when I meet white people, I will need to be more ferocious than their ancestors.
Okay.
I meet a white Afrikaans person and they're like, well, my forefathers came and they took the land from the weak black. And you're like, I'm going to show you something that even if your forefathers live today, they must speak about me like they speak about Ushaga or Idi Amin or any black person that is deemed a tyrant. And they're like, why are you not like the other black people? You're like, because I fought my ancestors against their will. This is not natural to me to kill and to take over and to dominate. But I realized it is precisely because they were so weak and submissive that they lost. And I said, I will fight them. And I'm not even fighting you, white person. I'm fighting my mind. And I want to dominate my mind so that as we change the move, my ancestors must bow to me.
Those who come after you.
The ones who come before me.
Okay.
Your grandparents must watch you do your thing. And, hey, they must shake. They must be like, hey, no. What's this boy doing? And you'll feel it. Trevor Noah in America, black coffee when he's traveling the world. Tusombedu. You can imagine that there's times where you're like, do you ever get nervous like all the time? When you were receiving this award, like, where there's this line that goes, become the wildest dreams of your ancestors. Where your ancestors are like, if I say to you, you are going to build the biggest podcast in the world. You're like, I know, thank you for the luck, but, and I'm like, sure. And you must get to a point where you're like, Dwan, I don't know. I'm so nervous and I don't know what's going on. And a lot of big celebrities, by the way, they crash because of this. They get to so much fame and so much wealth that they kind of take drugs to numb because they're like, it's too much. People see me in the streets and they shake and they cry. My own mother, when I get home, treats me like a king. And it's like, Mama, it's me. Because I've become something beyond what they could have ever fathomed. But to break through your ancestors' limitations and imperfections, you need to be aware and you need to fight them. And when you fight them, don't fight them for the benefit of external. Now you're benefiting Europeans. You're benefiting Chinese people. You're benefiting Afrikaners at the oppression of your people. You look at some of our politicians now, or Ramaphosa, some of these ANC guys, they look like, yes, they've done well for themselves and their family, they're rich, but they look like slave sellers. So you guys are comfortable for your people to be oppressed as long as you're rich on your own and white colonialists remain rich? Is that something that's comfortable in your brain? And if you're comfortable, look, who are we? But for the next black child who wants to fight that, you must be willing to fight the white forces and the black forces. So your ancestors will say, you can't take out a fellow black.
Yeah.
That's when you'll say, I'm going to fight you guys, my ancestors, and tell you this is not a fellow black. This is someone who's been poisoned and polluted. And that is not an easy thing. I know I'm speaking a bit much, but this is important to me, and I apologize if we don't
Sure.
get to the other principles.
Yeah.
To answer your question, yes, you can rewire your thinking and your software. And part of that principle of owning your mind is to be selective about what you consume.
Okay.
So look at the podcast you're watching. Look at who you follow on TikTok. Look at who your friends are. Look at the books you're reading. Look at the TV shows you're watching and be like, Penuel spoke about owning my mind and programming. And then it's like, okay, Pen, I'm poor. I'm unemployed. My family's poor and broke. Like, and you told me that a big part of that is because I'm being programmed, and you said I must change. To what? Because Pen, I'm listening to you now. Okay, watch the History Channel. Get off Mocha Love. Watch Bloomberg on DSTV. And I don't understand. Sure, you don't understand. You will understand. Because I'm asking you to do something foreign. That's what it's going to take. I know Khalekasi, but I'd ask you once a week, gibela ma-taxi and go to the suburbs and just walk around as if you're a resident. Go to a park there, greet the neighbors who are jogging. Hey, how are you? Get used to that space. And I feel weird and the insecurity. Sure, it's a foreign space. But start rewiring your mind. Start rechanging your environment. Change what you eat. If you go to ikota, sure, hambo ithenga ntwana ikota, but uthenge ne-apula. For what? Just to be like, push your health. I'm real. It's hard. And then put yourself in an environment that kind of pushes that type of thinking and living. So that even if bafethe kota ntwana shama ama-banana namhlanje. Kota, you're like, no, we're not doing that. You're like, I'm better. You're like, this is for your benefit.
Yeah.
And then from there, you hope that over time, your kids, when you watch them, when you're studying them, like say, Kota, no, this is unhealthy. Can we please have bananas? And you're like, okay. I think some of the programming in Genile Kazin. You know, I think we were not a reading family. I started doing this weird reading thing. I didn't know what it was. My kids read. They're like, Dad reads, so we read.
What you're talking about, I think, because, I mean, external reality can be a serious limitation, you know.
And it's funded to limit you, by the way.
Yes, with, you know, from different directions, you know. We can speak about owning your mind all day. Actually, we need a podcast that can, what I should have actually decided on was to actually stick to one thing that we can just break down, because now I have a whole lot of questions. I always listen to your podcast and you say, I have more questions, but I'm like, what do you mean you have more questions? So today I relate.
Can I ask for a favor? Just to consider?
Yes.
Ask all the questions you have, and we won't speak about anything else that we don't have time for.
Okay.
And then I'll come back and we'll speak about anything else, because it's important to exhaust. We're here. I'm here.
Yeah.
My book, Penuelism Principles. I forgot to bring copies.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you a copy. My book, Penuelism Principles, is here. We don't have to rush.
Yeah.
And as I said, this is the most important principle. We can unpack it for 10 episodes so that we don't have to rush. So it's your choice.
Yeah. My
let your spirit guide you.
Let's go as far as we can. So owning your mind, because now you were talking about like editing the software in that analogy that you were referring to. But I'm just thinking that if I'm gonna go against some of the programming that is encoded in my ancestors or ancestral memory or lineage, does that then mean that I have a possibility of actually cutting my connection in a sense of consciousness? Because I think of a lineage as a collective consciousness. So you and those that came before you, and you know those that came after you, meaning your kids, you operate as a collective. You know, even though maybe because of there's like your baby mamas and all of that, but there's that one common denominator that we can pick up, from from all of you, and that for me is the collective consciousness. So when we strive so much and maybe sometimes it's necessary because maybe it's bad habits. You see that, okay,
Correct.
my ancestors were not really good. I need to really change. Isn't that then making you cut yourself completely, or maybe, to a greater extent, away from your lineage?
The question you're asking and the thoughts.
And what are you holding on to then, after cutting yourself, if that's the possibility?
So the question you're raising and the thoughts you're having is precisely why this exercise is so dangerous. And why I spoke about people get depressed and take their lives, because I love my family. I care about my family. I love my ancestors. Now, if I do this thing, I'll be cutting a connection and removing part of the collective consciousness. And you're not alone. There's that uncle who had those bad habits or those good habits, which you don't want anymore. They are also fighting you. They also don't want to let go. And you sound crazy. You seem crazy. We have what we call living ancestors, which is our parents, if you still have them, your aunts and uncles, your cousins, your siblings.
Yeah.
And we have situations where families cut ties
While they're still alive.
while they're still alive, because every time you're with your brother, he wants you guys to snort cocaine. He wants you guys to get drunk and go fuck hoes. And you're like, I can't live like this. I refuse to live like this. This guy's destroying my life. I did well at school. I've got a good job. He's unemployed.
Yeah.
He's miserable. He knows I've got a bit of money. I'll pay for the cocaine and the prostitutes. But he's dragging me into darkness. So I'm going to have to cut this guy off. And he's like, Fetz, I'm your brother. Skule kanje, so too. You want to let go of blood? Me. And you're like, I have to. Otherwise, we're both going to die. I hope you'll get out. But if you don't want to get out, don't want to know grand. And that cannot be an easy thing. But we have a lot of those cases. We have families that try to poison each other. There's witchcraft. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
There's jealousy. So it can only hold that if this happens in the lived real world, it's going to happen in the subconscious, in the ancestral, in the world of the lineage. Because when you start doing, to what I was saying about the first 10 years, when you do your family history, it cannot be Nelson Mandela liberated South Africans. Oh, what a great ancestor.
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela beat his wife. No, let's not. No, we need to speak about that, because there may come a time as Mandela's child where you might slap a woman and you don't understand what's going on. And it's like, your grandfather used to beat his wife. You're like, shit, I'm going to have to work on this. But you can't cut off the Mandela. No, I'm going to have to work on this thing, because why was it so natural for me to slap this girl? It's no, dog. And you're like, yeah, actually, your grandfather was not a saint. Your grandfather cheated on his wife to be with two Mamwini. So your grandfather was a cheater. He was unfaithful. You're like, hey, no, we can't. Your own family now. Yakhulunywa kanjalo ngabantu abangasekho, hlonipha umkhulu wakho. And you're like, this is why we're never going to get better as a family. You guys only want to highlight the good things, but we can't highlight the bad things. And these bad things, we inherited them. And they're going to manifest.
And maybe we need to improve them.
And we need to improve upon them.
Yeah.
Now, when you fight your grandmother's history lineage, your grandmother could have been a hoe. She was getting fucked by different men. She was a prostitute. Prostitutes also have kids who inherit whatever spirits these women have. Drug dealers, people who traffic children, they also have children. So what is that child inheriting? And that child, once they figure out that my great-great-grandfather murdered black people for this land we enjoy today, my grandfather was an apartheid policeman who would torture. Someone tortured these people. It couldn't have been some person in the sky. It was someone's family member. And those children that came after are alive today. Where no Andile Mngitama, no Julius Malema speak about the beneficiaries of colonial and apartheid. They speak about people that are alive today. And those people need to reason within their minds. I love my grandfather. He was a great man. He used to do great things for us. But when I do his history research, I realized he beat black people. He murdered black people. They were part of the people that benefited from the Land Act, etc., etc. You need to reconcile and be like, I will try. It's difficult. And take the good from my grandfather and be good to my family. And I'll try and figure out, he did those things because it was the law then. What is the law now that I'm doing that is oppressing others so that I don't fall in the same trap? How do I apologize for what my grandfather did? It's not me, of course, but it's part of my lineage. So what I'm going to do is, as part of my grandfather's legacy, to find those families and to apologize, to maybe pay them something, to bring them close and to be like, I'm trying to fix something that is even within me so that moving forward, my kids are like, we've seen my dad, who's done no wrong, fix legacies of my grandfather or his father, so that we now know we want to be better people. It is such a difficult thing to go through. There was a tweet I read recently from one of the leaders of AfriForum, and it reminded me of something that black people in South Africa need to understand. It's very important. Most white people will never apologize for the atrocities of the past, because if they apologize, it is proof that they accept that what was done in the past is wrong.
And they don't accept.
If you're saying sorry, it means you acknowledge that it was wrong. Second, once you've acknowledged, it means now you must correct it.
Yeah.
Most white people in South Africa will never apologize for apartheid and colonialism, because they are aware that once they do that, we will then force them to fix. So it's better to keep quiet. But I wasn't there.
Because apologizing is not the end.
It cannot be the end. I was not there.
Yeah.
You are not there, but you're enjoying the spoils. You live on the land. You are not there. Give us the land, because you are not there. Give us the land. No. My grandfather. Oh, now you acknowledge your grandfather. We're saying acknowledge the bad as well. You can't just take the good. And these conversations become difficult for white people when I have them. They get very uncomfortable. Pen, come on. Bro, are you saying you should get punished for? I'm like, what you're doing now is cognitive. You claim to be a good white person and you're struggling to accept a part of who you are and where you come from. That's bad. Because there's black people today who are beneficiaries. I have land in the Zulu kingdom because Ushaga and other people managed to consolidate.
Yeah.
Or I work for a company. I work for De Beers. I work for Anglo-American. Black person. I was born in 1990. I'm black. Funding an NSFAS. But the reality is I'm working for a company that oppressed people in the past. Am I willing to say sorry? Am I willing to take my nice salary from Anglo and donate it to black people? No. I mean, I earn this. That's the same mindset that a white kid has. So you as a black person working for Shanduka, where Ramaphosa is the owner, where Ramaphosa got stakes in companies owned by colonial beneficiaries, you are part of you're part of the crime. No, I'm not. What do you mean, Tuana? I'm black.
Yeah.
So if you are white, or if I was white in Tuana, then I must do the right thing. It's the same thing. So these thoughts, the questions you're asking are what goes on in the mind.
Yeah.
It is not an easy thing to reconcile, but you need to reconcile it. Some of the kids that reconcile, by the way, this they won't speak about. They'll go back to the atrocities of their grandfathers and they'll be like, yeah, he did well. And they'll be like, I fucking love it. So my grandfather killed and oppressed and what. These indigenous peoples. It's like, yeah, that's what it takes to be powerful. And then they'll carry on doing it. And then they'll be like, I'll do it better than my grandfather and pretend like I'm doing the right thing, but I'll do exactly what he did. But I create jobs where you're underpaying people. Yeah, but I donate to charity. But it's not your money. It's 2 rand for hope that is taken from the customers.
It's just taken from that template.
That's not you're still oppressing, but it's smarter.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but we funded Elvis's education. You funded Elvis's programming so that he cannot fully enjoy his being African.
Yeah.
So he can work and serve your people, be shackled by debt and never be able to break out. That's all.
Okay. I rather maybe let's touch a bit on sex, relationships, and the dating part, because when
we're gonna close on this.
We're gonna close on this, yeah.
Okay, because it's huge, by the way. This is another one.
It's huge, and I'm thinking if we took about an hour just on one chapter.
No, the mind is big.
The mind is really big, and I love the fact that it's chapter 1 of the book.
By the way, sorry, before you carry on, that chapter is going to be taken out in future.
Owning your mind.
I'll explain why. But please ask your question. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I always ask people whether or not we need alternative models of doing relationships. Because when I look at how relationships are conducted, whether in a form of a marriage, in a form of like just people dating, generally, I don't think we really do well, because you look at a whole lot of things that come out of that GBV. You've got kids that are being denied, to actually have
See
relationships, with their other parents, and I question whether or not we need a new or alternative, maybe multiple, various alternative models of doing relationships. And when I read the Penuelism principles, when it comes to sex and relationships, you also speak about dating multiple partners or having sex with multiple partners. And I ask myself, what does that mean? And does that affect our morality? How do you explain all of this? How do you make sense to someone who says, like, this doesn't make sense, or this is just a no-no?
Yeah. Own your mind and then GBV stats. That chapter on own your mind in the future, after I've passed on, or maybe while I'm still alive, will be removed from Penuelism principles, because that chapter is the chapter that destroys all the other belief systems in the world. The whole concept of building a religious system, a cultural system, starting a cult, because my thing is called a cult, is for me to control people's minds. That's all. I'm here to compete for minds.
Okay.
I'm here to say, this is my app, and I want this app to be downloaded in you, and then you must remove the others. So that goes against owning your mind. Like, why must I follow Penuelism if you say I must own my mind? I'll follow Elvism. I'll follow Molfism.
Yeah.
It's stupid. I must own my mind, and then I must follow you. Ganjani.
Yeah.
I'm owning my mind.
Yeah.
I'm owning my mind, but then I must follow you. It doesn't make sense. So
it doesn't work. Yeah.
That chapter is the chapter that people who are searching for true consciousness and liberation, mental liberation, that is the chapter that they need more than anything. That's the chapter that speaks of breaking out of the matrix, the systems that control us today. But it's contradictory because it's in a book that is also trying to condition you on how to live and how to be. You're like, oh, I read your first chapter, and then I decided, fuck your book, and I threw it away. So that will probably be removed in future, because I can imagine the Bible's been doctored and reworked. Some of our African history has been reworked. I mean, we don't speak about African leaders, kings, who were selling their own people to slave masters. I gave an example of Nelson Mandela. There are many others. Some of our favorite heroes have got really dark parts of their stories. Those ones get suppressed, so we only focus on the good. So I can only imagine, because religion is used as a tool by the powerful to control the weak. If ever Penuelism becomes a big belief system, the rich and the powerful of that time will take the same book and they'll edit it so that, like, oh no, when he said own your mind, he meant follow Penuelism. So we've now changed it from own your mind to allow Penuel to own your mind. And you're like, I don't think that's what it said. It's like, no, that's what it said. It's just at the time, and then it will change.
Yeah.
So then they will use it again as a tool. But guys, we all know, chapter 1, let Penuel own your mind. And you're like, no, that's not what he said. You're like, no, that's what he said. He said, there are systems, you must leave the systems and you must follow Penuel. So that chapter is very problematic, by the way.
It's going to be removed.
It'll probably be removed as things happen. I mean, even African spirituality today is being used by the wrong people to make it seem like, but you're an African, be spiritual, come give me 50,000 and let's slaughter cows. And you're like, no, man. So I mustn't give the church 50,000. I must give you 50,000. What's the difference here? No, we must follow the great Enki and Anu. What's different from them to God and Zeus? And 50% of all women who are murdered in South Africa are murdered by their intimate partner. 50%.
50%.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the people that push propaganda will not give us the data the other way around. Because I can tell you now, luckily we've got a story like Uflaba. Every now and then get a story of a chick has killed her boyfriend. But those ones don't get much hype because there's an agenda to get genders to
Once
fight.
in a while, 1 in a million. Yeah.
It's because they don't push the story. But with women, any random girl killed by her lover or whatever. Men get killed by
whose problem is that? Is it the people that are reporting the stats or the victims that are not reporting the cases?
It's the victims.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the victims. But they're also held by society. You must understand, as men, even within each other, if you came here to cry on this podcast, my girlfriend cheated on me, Ntwana, I don't know what to do, I'm so sad. We'd all be like, Ntwana, no, stop. Don't know how you so discuss Alendo. We suppress you telling your story.
Yeah.
You go on Twitter, you tell the story, girls will laugh at you. OMG, look at this guy crying. So we've created a culture where it's not comfortable for men to tell their sides, but they must. I'm here to say men must. Someone out there created this narrative that men, I'm not saying cry and be soft, no. I'm saying just tell your story. Be like, my chick's cheated on me and I decided to stay with her. How, Twana? You'd be surprised how many men get cheated on and stay with the chick. They stay. I mean, we laugh at Will Smith and Jada Pinkett and August, but many men do that, but out of his calm, they don't tell. So then it's like, well, women don't cheat on men. It's men that cheat on women. It's because the women speak out, the men don't. With that thing of 50%, which is crazy. Now, this is 50% of women who are killed. We don't know the stats of how many women are beaten, almost killed by their intimate partners, which means a huge part of violence enacted on women is by their lovers. It's like a random tsotsi out there, skebeng out there, will see a woman be like, ish, yeah, maybe not, let me keep it moving.
Yeah.
But then her lover will be the person to hit her, whatever.
Even kill her.
And kill her.
Yeah.
Because there's an insanity in love.
Insanity.
There's an insanity in love. There's an insanity in how we've been taught to love.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines, I post it every now and then, love is a mental illness.
Okay.
I posted to such an extent that some people are starting to bite it now. And when there's a story of GBV, they post and then they tag me. Pen is saying, love is a mental illness. When you love your children, you are willing to do almost anything for them.
Okay.
A mother will fight a lion to protect her baby. On any other day, she would run away. But because she loves her child. So there's konuklanya that's involved with love. It's whatever is logical. I've got 50 rand, let me save it. I've got 50 rand, my chick is here, let me spend it with her. Your brain doesn't function logically. It's like the chemicals go wild.
You lose your rationality.
You lose your rationality. You stop thinking logically. If you look at what men are willing to do for a chick, wake up at 3 in the morning, say, Ntwana, please send me money, Ntwana, I want to Uber this chick, travel to another province, steal something. The things men are willing to do for sex, for a relationship, ask them to do the same thing for their business. Ntwana, it's 3 in the morning, Ntwana, come on. But if the chick is like, listen, I'm horny, come now. She does like,
it's jumping.
Ntwana, Penzo, yeah, Ntwana, Ntwana, it's 3, what's going on? Ntwana, ngizokuchazela kusasa. Ntwana, you literally woke me up at 3 to go, fuck. If I'm like, Ntwana, exe, asambe siyospan. Ntwana, 3, Ntwana. Aslinde, the things we are willing to do for sex and love are crazy. I mean, some of the greatest, now on the positive, some of the greatest movies, songs, artworks, stories are love stories. You know, your Romeo and Juliet, even though it ends tragically, paintings that are done, nudes that are done, songs, even heartbreak, like Adele, Welcome to Heartbreak, Kanye West, like love and its things inspire so much. Whenever I've been confused around how to move in the world, I tend to study the animal kingdom because I believe human beings are largely animals. And when I look at sex and dating and marriage, my template comes from animals, not what human beings have created. This thing of dating is a human-created construct. This thing of marriage is a human-created construct. What do animals do? Because animals don't date. Animals don't get married.
And they procreate all the time.
They procreate and they have a way of doing things. So I look at them and I'm like, how do we take this and use it as a template for human beings? A lot of male animals will have more than one female partner. They procreate and they generally stay with them. Because animals don't like, hey, I've got kids, but I'm based in Cape Town.
Like
Animals are there. We used to be like that, specifically as Africans. If someone were to say African men in the past were present fathers, it's because they had nowhere to go to. Ububa nesibaya and your woman and your kids. Uzoyapi. You're going to run away and go to another. People ask you, who are you? Where are your people? And they'll send you back. Or they'll send a messenger to ask, which say, Molefi is here. He says he comes from your village. Hey, Molefi left his woman and kids here. Hey, Baba. Go back. Today we live this capitalist life where you're like, I've got kids in Durban, but I have to go work in Joburg because the colonial systems force me, versus being in Durban working the fields with my wife and my kids. Animals do that. They hear, we're hunting together, whatever I catch is for my kids. If I work here and my kids live here, whatever benefit I have, my kids will have it, even if I don't want. If I live around my kids and have a plate of food and I'm like, ish, okay, here's a piece of me, even if I don't want. If I'm far away, isolated, my kids won't benefit from me. So we need to rework sex and dating from, I think, an animalistic perspective. We have what we call freedom today, which has really destroyed human beings in that sense. We have normalized having sex with someone where you guys don't have a deeper agreement with each other. It is good enough for us to just fuck and move.
What is a deeper agreement?
A deeper agreement is you will not touch my body unless you are committing to take care of it.
Take care of it.
From a child perspective, women are normally burdened with this. Having a child is meant to be a commitment. You're not meant to be like, we had a child, but someone else must raise the child. Of which some people do. They chuck children in dustbins. They leave them at an orphanage. So in Nigeria, you're happy to have a child and then dump. So that's what we do with sex and intimacy.
Nowadays.
Other people have a child. They're like, I don't care this is my child. No, let it go. Ganjani. This is my child though. We don't do that with intimacy. Where you're like, this woman has let me into herself, into her DNA, into her ancestral memory. I'm now going to plant my DNA and my ancestral memory in this girl. I can't let her walk around as if she's mine. Yeah. I bonded with her on a spiritual, deeper than, on a conscious level. If you watch the movie Avatar, and even if you look at at the Matrix, they stick a thing in the back of the head. In Avatar, the creatures there have this ponytail thing where they connect with animals, etc.
And plants.
Yeah. You're connecting. We are connecting consciousness. When I'm inside this woman, we are literally one being. Now we've normalized doing that careless.
With a lot of people.
And it's...
What is wrong with that?
So we were speaking about your ancestors and your what. You can only imagine if you are carrying your mom and dad and your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your great-great-grandparents and your great-great-great-grandparents. When you're connecting to her, she's carrying the same, and they're all now physically present.
It's okay. Yeah.
And you're in a space where there's a stadium of people watching you guys connect. And then right after that, you rip it apart, and then you go and do that with another one. You have to be confused. People speak about soul ties, and some people speak about being depressed because you're sleeping around. And when we speak about detoxing from food, social media, some of it is meant to be celibacy. Stop having sex. Stop connecting with other people's consciousness and fucking up whatever kind of situation. I'm not saying only sleep with one person, by the way. I'm saying just be aware of what you're doing and then own the consequences. But we've become bastardized to a point where we think this is normal. And then we don't understand why the world is a mess. And the people who are more disciplined in either one partner for life or polygamy in the sense of the Muslims, the men are allowed to have up to 4 wives. But this is all. This woman, I met her as a virgin when I was a virgin. All she knows is me. All I know is her. And then my other 3 wives, I met them all as virgins. All they know is me, and all I know is the 4 of them. And we keep it here, and they are sister wives. They understand each other, and the consciousness is on the same wavelength, and our kids are all here. We are protected from external spirits and energies and whatever, because we're all here.
Now, hypothetically speaking, actually not hypothetically speaking, reality-wise, you've got a whole lot of. So if I were to bring everybody who is in this building right now and say, okay, how many people have you slept with?
That's just intersections.
And we try to think of it in that kind of analogy, right? And then now we say, okay, maybe this is a sample for, the rest of the population. What is the solution?
We have solutions. We just left the solutions. The solutions are there. Black people are majority poor and broke and struggle financially. If you ask black people about Muslims or Jews, black people will tell you that those people have money. Black people will give you a full breakdown of why Muslims and Jews have money. They'll tell you. They're not confused. They know exactly. Then your question is meant to be, then why don't you copy them?
Yeah.
And then black people give you a full list of excuses on why they cannot.
What do you think is the case, though?
Now, when it comes to what you're asking now, the solutions are there. Religion, no sex before marriage.
Okay.
Culture, no sex before marriage. You only have sleep with your marital partner.
Yeah.
You only have children with your marital partner. You live in your marital home and you have your children. Whether it is monogamy or polygamy, the solution is there. But then people came, whether for evil reasons or maybe even for good reasons, to be like, we don't like this. I saw a chick at work. I got horny. I wanted her. She's married. I'm married. We both wanted each other. So we cheated. And that's why we have this cheating dynamic. And now we've normalized cheating. And not only did we normalize cheating, we normalized sleeping with each other before marriage. Christians, people who believe in African customs, have got body counts before they get married. But they see nothing wrong with it. They don't see it as I've been sinning. A Christian girl doesn't sleep with a guy and go to church the next day and pray and cry. Dear God, I'm so sorry. I have broken your temple and what? They don't. They comfortably sleep with men, wake up in the morning, quote a Bible scripture, and then be like, I'm the child of the Most High. I can't wait to meet my husband, dear future husband. And I'm like, but you've been sleeping with men. No, but it wasn't like that. No, it was like that. You need to accept it. Now, a part of the solution is consequences. The reason we have corruption in South Africa, and especially on the African continent, there are no consequences to doing the wrong thing. One of the reasons so many people respect Islam is because Muslims, majority, not all, have created a religious system where when you sin, they kick you out. You can't walk around saying, I'm a proud homosexual and I'm Muslim. They'll be like, 0. You're not.
Yeah.
We disown you. You will not be gay and Muslim. Christians, the popes, they'll be like, look, only God can judge. If you want to be homosexual and do your thing, who are we? You are welcome in the house of the Lord. God loves us all. The Muslims are like, hey, sack.
Doesn't work that
Fuck
way.
that. You want to be a prostitute or a hoe and still consider yourself a devout Muslim woman. Hey, fuck that. So we do not have consequences. Some of the consequences African customs would have would be you impregnate a girl before marriage, you pay damages in Kaulo. I'm trying to think of others. You slaughter. So instead of repenting in the church, you commit a crime, you have to slaughter a goat, slaughter a cow, ask for cleansing from your ancestors. And it's done in the view of the community. They are aware. Elvis killed Pen. They were fighting, he killed him. And on behalf of the community, he's going to go to the family, Yaka Pen, and apologize. And they'll pay 5 cows to cleanse. There was consequences. So you will not do that again because your father is going to mur you. We just lost 5 cows in this family because you killed someone. Don't do that again. We're losing our family wealth. Baba, I'm so sorry. We don't have consequences today. Even this thing of inhlawulo, you pay it, you don't pay it. If you have a bit of money, I can hlawula every month. I'll impregnate a new girl, ngiyohlawula, and keep it moving. So, who is going to enforce those consequences?
Yeah.
Currently, the custodians of church culture are weak. They've been infiltrated. So the only thing you have is yourself and your home. So you will within yourself be like, I shall not do this. And if I do, I will punish myself. Or in my family, my children shall not. If you deviate from this family, this is your punishment. Or I will disown you. You are no longer my child. Why not? Because we have got rules in this house. You don't, as my daughter, go sleeping around with boys. I don't want boys coming here to come and zobigi sisu and paying damages. What bullshit is that? We don't have that in this family. I would like you and whatever boy you slept with to leave my home. Or alternatively, you will stay in my home. This child you're about to have will be my child, not yours. And you will work for this family. Whatever job and whatever schooling you will have, you will serve 10 years. You will go to school, AUJ, Wits, UKZN. You will not stay at res. You will come home every single day. I want you to update me on your location. As soon as you get your job, your salary for 10 years will be mine because you violated this family. It's either you take that punishment or I want you and this boy you slept with to leave my household. I do not want you because it will set a bad example for all my other kids. But dad, you let us spongile. But dad, utulani. Now our home is fucked. But you must be able to do that for yourself. And can you do that? And that becomes hard. Again, we have the solutions. But then you're like, but why don't you? Things have changed. And what? Oh, okay. Then stay with what you have. And I think one of the things I do say in that chapter is, if you are going to live a certain way, be promiscuous, sleep around, own it. I have, people are going to be watching this. Hey, why is Penuel speaking about this? He's been getting people's children pregnant. Sure. I own it.
Yeah.
The reason people know I have 7 children from 5 women is because I own it. And if it's like, but you were wrong, I'll be like, I wasn't. And I can explain why, but it's my life. Don't go do what I'm doing and claim that you're Christian. And this is how I'm living. So you want your kids to live like that? I don't. So then why did you do it? At the time, this is what I thought was best. What are the consequences? These are the consequences I'm living with. And I own them. If a mother of my child doesn't want to give me access, that's mine. I can complain and say the courts are wrong and whatever, but me and this woman as adults decided to have a child. So what she's doing is she's violating our agreement. Not the church, not Uba Umzulu. Me and her decided to make a child and now she's acting up. So she's wrong. I didn't lie to her and say, hey, I will only have a child with you and no one else. I swear on my life. Never. Every woman I've been with knows that I want to have a lot of children. Every woman I've been with knows that I've never wanted to get married. So when they decide to move, of which they are allowed, they are the ones breaking from our agreement. Someone's meant to ask them, why did you have a child with Pen? For this reason, did you change your mind? Yes. So now you're punishing him. Siswam, you're wrong for punishing the O. Take some accountability. But for where I've done wrong, where I've cheated on women, where I've fallen short with my kids, I own it. And at any given time, if a chick says, Penuel didn't maintain here, Penuel lied to me here, Penuel cheated, I'll be like, I was wrong. What are the consequences? Well, he didn't see his son for 6 months. Penuel, do you take the punishment? I'm like, I'll only take the punishment if she says it's punishment. You will not see your son for 6 months because you cheated. I don't want to be chasing her in courts for what I don't know. I can't see my son because I cheated?
Yeah.
Tell me. Be like, I can't see my kid because this lady said you will not see your kid for this. I'm like, but we never agreed on that. And then I have to ask her in that same question, in that same conversation, if you are going to punish me for cheating on you, how do I punish you when you violate something that we agreed on? So that we are both clear. But if you're just keeping me from my child and you're not telling me, I go to the courts, we fight, but you're not how am I going to correct my behavior with you so that in future I tell you, I don't want to cheat anymore, but I'd like to have lots of girlfriends. You either agree or you disagree, but this is where we're at. Be honest, be open. And when she gets asked in the streets, did you see Penny's got a new baby? Ooh, hey, he loves children, that one. How do you feel? I feel nothing because he used to tell me. I know he's been expecting kids. Penuel was seen with another girl. Hey, he loves girls. He tells He posted on social media all the time that he loves girls. So, well, how do you want me to feel? Because I know it. Don't you want to punish him? Well, I do. He sends money for the child, and I chow some of it. And I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm going to take some of the money. Fuck him. And it's like, okay, we've got an understanding. Just whatever you do, stop being fake and pretending I'm a child of the Most High, I'm a staunch Christian. No, my ancestors believed in. But the reality is you're living among. You are a young black boy, you want polygamy. You've been fucking all the girls that you wanted, which has got nothing to do with African culture. You are disrespecting your ancestors and your cultural beliefs. That is not what they say. You are meant to remain a virgin. And if you believe in his tembu, meet a girl, take your family to meet her family, marry her, and then sleep with her. Not this thing of fucking different girls and be like, in my culture, is tembu. That's not what you're doing there. That's amasimba, what you're doing there. But you're lying to people.
Yeah.
So I'm just... The animals do what animals do, and it's what I aspire to. But in that, I'm saying, if you're going to deviate from prescription, own it.
Wow.
Let people know. It's like, say, I'm a piece of shit. I'm corrupt. I steal. This is me, bro. I'm working on it, but yeah. And then people are like, shame. We hate him. Yes, but you know, he owns his shit. You know. So.
Pen, thank you so much. Although I feel that you know, we could still go back to Own Your Mind, and we definitely need to come back and talk about other principles, because my idea was that, okay, we're going to tackle this top 6, and then the second round we're going to tackle another one. But
I talk a lot, bro.
Seeing that, no, but that's okay, because you give context. When you think about the Penuelism principles and the entire thing of, you know, Penuel has created his own religion, it's almost like, okay, where is this guy really coming from? You know, is he trying to like become a god or rule over other people and all of that? But when you give context, and I think obviously because of limited resources, this is what, you know, limits us. But I would love to thank you for making time, and I'm hoping that we're definitely going to have another session where we can just, you know, break down a whole lot of things, including the issue of education, because I wanted to ask you a lot about education.
That one's huge as well.
Yeah.
These principles are actually all heavy.
Yeah,
we don't even speak about marriage, by the way, because that's a topic on its own.
Yes. You know, and the sex and relationships part, we touched on it a bit. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want Pen to come here for the second time, you know what you have to do. In the comment section, let me know what we have to discuss. I'll post the top 6 principles that we had agreed on today, and then you will see what we touched, you see what we missed. And if you want him to come back, make sure you tell us exactly what you want us to discuss, and then we'll deal with that.
Molf, thank you so much for the invite, man. I'm wishing Break It Down the greatest of success, and stay rooted in why you started this thing.
Yeah.
But obviously, where you can, collaborate with others, work with others, and constantly look to increase the resources you have and the reach that you have. But more than anything from my side, just as a gent, thank you for having an interest, man, in my mind and in the work I'm doing. It genuinely means a lot to me, and it humbles me a lot. I wish you nothing but the best of success, and let's hope we'll sit down again and thrash this out some more.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have watched this podcast up until this time, I'd love to thank you. And I wish that on the following episode, you'll also be here. If you are new on this platform, my name is Elvis, Molefi Molf, and in this podcast, I discuss conversations with different individuals, human beings that are comfortable breaking down conversations such as biological science, religion, history, worldviews, as well as any other topic that might be relevant for that particular time. And with that being said, I'd love to say thank you so much, and that's how we end it. Thank you.
Cheers.